I am so excited to talk about this. 50 Shades of Grey is directed by Sam Taylor Johnson, written by Kelly Marcel. It's based on the novel by E.L. James and stars Dakota Johnson and Jamie Dornan. And 50 Shades of Grey is being marketed as some sort of romance, erotic thing where this girl, Anastasia Steele, played by Dakota Johnson, enters into a relationship with this wealthy dude played by Jamie Dornan named Christian Grey. And he likes bondage and whatnot. But like, don't let any of that fool you. What this movie really is about. It's 2 hours and 5 minutes of a guy trying to convince a girl to be his sex slave. And don't let anyone tell you otherwise. That's literally the main conflict of this story. But I think it's interesting to note that here in the Philippines, when this movie is released, it got an R18 rating, which has happened before. But I didn't see why they felt the need, even if it was already R18, to censor the hell out of the movie. Like during the sex scenes, like half the screen literally is just a black bar. And during other scenes, like people's privates are blurred out and whatnot, but that doesn't really matter because that does not change the fact that 50 Shades of Grey is overlong, has absolutely awful writing, and has pretty much non-existent direction because I felt absolutely disgusted watching this movie. I wanted to take a shower the entire time through. I was so uncomfortable. There were people in the audience who were like laughing and like, thinking that it was romantic and whatnot, and it was just so unbelievably horrid and offensive to me. I hated watching this movie and I hated myself for watching this movie. Before I get to like the meat of why I hate this movie, I want to get rid of like one little thing is that if you're watching this movie because you want to hear like some slowed down Beyonce songs, I have bad news for you. That the music is there, but it's completely mishandled. The way they use the music, they try to make Anna's and Christian's relationship feel romantic, but it's just not. I mean, the way they put it in there, it becomes unintentionally funny because the situations are so creepy and disturbing that trying to make it seem romantic is just so it's just don't do that. And this movie is over 2 hours long and absolutely nothing happens in it. I mean, the pacing thinks it's making the movie like sexy or whatever, but it's not. It's actually extremely tedious, extremely boring, and really, 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 really repetitive. I mean, like the only thing that happens throughout these 2 hours is that they meet up somewhere. She feels attracted to him. He feels attracted to her. And then she gets kind of creeped out, or he pushes her away, and then he buys her like a car or like a new laptop or something, and she's like, oh, maybe I do like this guy. That's so stupid, okay? There is no tension with any of the editing because there's no fear. They don't act like normal human beings. There would be a lot of hesitation and fear going into something like this, but there is nothing there. And there's no attempt at giving any like psychology to these characters aside from Anna biting her pen or her lip over and over again just to suggest that she's turned on or something. I mean, when you look at the credits, this movie has 3 editors, and their names are Anne V. Coates, Lisa Gunning, and Deborah Neal Fisher. What were you guys doing? I mean, where is the editing? Where's the artistry in the editing here? But then we get to the story, and the plot is just absolutely unbelievable because there's no way that these two are ever going to be really into each other like in a real situation. And this movie tries to be realistic. They just kind of get together after like the most awkward interview ever. And what happens after this interview is just a series of ridiculously creepy events. I mean, the dude stalks her to a bar and then brings her to his hotel room, and she's fine with that. And then later on, after she like turns him down or something, he breaks into her house or her apartment or something, and she thinks it's hot or whatever. I mean, oh my god. And because this movie is just filled with like random, really creepy moments, the ending comes really randomly also because you think they're just having one of their normal, weird, normal sessions. And then it just ends, and it's just like, oh wow, it's over. And Kelly Marcel, who wrote this screenplay, attempts to give the character of Christian some sort of, well, character, but totally misses it. They try to spin him as like a broken guy, or he has like some sort of psychological, like some psychosis, but it totally misses the mark. I mean, he just comes off as immature and whiny all the time. And on the other hand, the portrayal of Anna here is just offensively shallow, I think. I mean, this is one of the most offensive movies I've ever seen because the female characters are so weak, especially Anna, who is just, disgusting because she doesn't need this guy. She's doing fine on her own, and then, she has no real reason to like him, but whenever he buys her something, she's like, oh, I'm attracted. It's like, girl. And the dialogue is just absolutely vomit worthy in its attempts to sound edgy or funny or whatever. I'd love to repeat some lines here, but I can't because family members watch this stuff sometimes. The one I will mention is that when Anna tells Christian that she's still a virgin, Christian cups her face into his hands and says, "Where have you been all my life?" I mean, are you serious? That's just like who approved this? Jamie Dornan is clearly really uncomfortable doing these things, and it really shows in his decision to play Christian with as little emotion as possible. Like he's so stoic, but it really does not help because we don't get any access to his inner workings or whatever, and that actually makes me really respect the guy a lot more. As a man, like he didn't want to do these things, but I can't lie, and I have to admit that his performance in the movie was bad and just really, really empty. And the director, Sam Taylor Johnson, fails to add any sort of depth whatsoever to the source material, which is such a wasted opportunity because she would have been a hero if she really kind of managed to elevate this story in any way possible. But what happens is that she just, does the movie, and the moral of the story that comes out ends up being wealth equals an excuse for tolerating any sort of abusive behavior. And I think that's a disgusting message to send out to people, millions of people all over the world. I mean, objectively speaking, with her directing, you can't even enjoy the sex scenes because they're so poorly staged. They're not titillating at all, nor are they shocking in any way. So, like, the censorship in the Philippines honestly didn't even ruin anything. I mean, it's already bad enough as it is. And, what's so annoying to me is that Sam Taylor Johnson puts like this really overly serious tone throughout the movie, but she tries to stay in the safe zone anyway. I mean, if you're gonna do an R18 movie, you might as well go all the way and just give the fans what they want. Don't give them this. Now, the only like commendable thing I can say about this movie is that Dakota Johnson is admittedly quite committed to playing Anna. That she actually does get a couple of laughs from the audience. She is sort of charming in her awkwardness, but that's honestly it. 50 Shades of Grey is a bad movie. Like, it's just no other way to spin it. It's a bad movie. And it's unbelievable when you read the Wikipedia page and you discover how many talented people wanted to be involved with this. I mean, Bret Easton Ellis, who wrote American Psycho, wanted to write the screenplay for this. Imagine how different a movie it would have been if he wrote it. Directors like Bennett Miller and Steven Soderbergh wanted to direct this at one point, I think. But in the end, it's just this. It's just this waste. And what annoys me the most is that it's such a waste of a good title. 50 Shades of Grey is a good title, and this is all we get from that title. Thanks a lot, E.L. James. Thanks a lot. So yes, those are my thoughts on 50 Shades of Grey. Actually, honestly, want to say more, but whatever. So have you guys seen it? What do you think about it? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Whatever you thought, whether you agree with me or not, please leave me a comment. Let's have a conversation.